So Matt Smith is a serial entrepreneur. He's got 3 kids like me, and he calls himself a serial dadpreneur. He runs multiple successful businesses and has a commitment to always put family first. That's his purpose, it's his driver, and it's a brilliant conversation we had with such raw enthusiasm, inspiration and motivation for others who might find themselves a bit busy, struggling to say no, missing that purpose and not sure where to turn next. He's had, as I said, multiple successful businesses based out of Colorado in the States, and was also recently partnering with Grant Cardone on the series Undercover Billionaire. Some fascinating learnings from that, but also more interestingly, this conversation from his earlier career and what he's going to do to pass that legacy and inspiration onto his own kids to make sure his purpose is met, and how his business can contribute to his purpose moving forward. So brilliant chat. I was delighted to meet Matt. So let's see what happened when we met Dads in Business. Hello and welcome along. This is the latest in the video series from Dads in Business, whose aim it is to support busy dads, stressed out dads, dads with a lot of ambition but just don't know what to do with it, bring the best of themselves to work and to home. And we do that, or part of how we do that is to have chats with business leaders, personal development coaches, business coaches, others who have been there and done that and can share experiences of their stories, troubles, successes in and around business and personal life. I'm delighted that we're joined from stateside by serial dadpreneur, multi-business owner, Matt Smith, based out of Pueblo, Colorado. Good afternoon, Matt. How are you? First off, thank you for joining us.
It's 1 o'clock here. What time is it there?
We 5 to 8 at night.
I like it.
Having 3 young kids, it's nearly my bedtime.
Yes, it is getting close. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Matt, thank you so much for agreeing to jump on the call. I know from my research about you and your sort of business life, how you blend your family life into that and involve them so heavily. I think it's quite important to share elements of that so you can help others overcome maybe some challenges that they've faced, because a huge part of your life's mission is to put your family first, right? But I think, and it'd be good to hear your experiences around this, as certainly as startups and as our businesses build momentum, or as the position that we find ourselves in at work but gets more pressured, and there's more demands from work, there's a risk, isn't there, that families can get forgotten and what we set out to support kind of fades away. And what was it for you, I guess, in your early days in business that I guess made you want to put your family first? Was that always the mission? And how have you checked in with that to make sure that that's still the case? It'd be good to hear around that a little bit.
Yeah, Rob. Well, first, thanks for having me, man. This is exciting. I appreciate your movement. I appreciate what you're doing. The story needs to be told more and more and more. There's no doubt that family first is not just a hashtag. It is a way of life, and it is truly the most important thing to all of us, and it should be the most important thing. And making sure that that's always a priority. I actually wrote a book about this called Serial Dadpreneur, as you mentioned. And the whole purpose of that book was to kind of help juggle the 2 in 1. My story, quick in a nutshell, is I was raised by a single mother of 2 kids. I grew up without a dad, and we've since built a good relationship in my older days, lately. But until I was 18 years old, I had no idea who my dad even was. And I had a mother that struggled financially. But what she lacked in money, she made up for in love and lessons. And I wouldn't change my life for the world, but it also created who I am because of it. I had the love of a woman who put family first in everything that she did. She just, like, that was the epitome of her, is taking care of her family, and she would do anything for her family. But she also never understood the concept of money. There was times that we would leave church and she would give a homeless man her last $20 out of her pocket, and then our electricity would get shut off when I got home. And she just was like, hey, we get paid on Thursday. It'll be fine. Just put some candles out there. But she was just always so positive, and she just loved life so much. And there was just no problems. You know, there's situations, and she just really taught me the importance of family, and nothing I took from that day until I met my beautiful wife, Jenny, and my soulmate, that's the most important thing to me. And how I do that is you know, you definitely we'll probably be talking about this a lot, is just making sure no matter what happens in your life, you maintain that. And I think, you know, the entrepreneur side of me was created the same way. It was like watching us not be able to really take a vacation or really even go out to dinner or do things like that. I always wanted to change those stars a little bit, and I don't think of money as like, I want to buy cool cars or anything. I think of money as a freedom, and it's a freedom for my kids to see the world, travel, you know, have a freedom to do things that they wouldn't normally be able to do without it. And that was always my goal, was like, I didn't have a dad, so I'm going to give it every effort I can to be the best parent on the planet and be there for every event that I never had a dad there for, be there at every soccer game, baseball game, dance recital, whatever it may be. I'm going to be there. I'm committing to that before I even have a family. And I wanted to give them something that I didn't have from a financial standpoint. So again, Serial Dadpreneur, I think that's where my story was really created, was, you know, the love, but the lack of finances, and how do I do that together? And I'm sure, as we'll talk today, I think you just prioritizing that at an early age, and then meeting somebody that was like my mom, you know, somebody that had the heart of gold, that was truly just a special woman that had the same priorities as I did. And, you know, I worked in retail for years, even when I met my wife, and I committed the minute that we had kids, I would never work a weekend again for the rest of my life. And I held to that. It's the best thing I ever did after that. So that's a little story of, you know, my background and where I am, who I am.
Yeah, so I was going to follow on and ask, what have you always worked for yourself? But you mentioned that you worked in retail as you had, I guess, you got 3 kids, I think, right? Was that as you had your first kid, you worked in retail? Was that your last employment? And what was it that kicked you into working for yourself?
Yeah, so my history is, I truly was probably the king of the side hustle. I literally had a job for 18 years, a career in the mattress business. And I loved every minute of it. I started at 19 years old. I was also building real estate platforms and portfolios. I was opening businesses. I opened Snap Fitness when I was there. I opened a franchise when I was there. I opened a party bus. I opened a spa. I opened a carpet cleaning company. I opened 11 other companies at some point in time while I was working for a full-time employer. I loved my job. I loved the company. They were really good to me. I was really good to them, and we had just a mutual love for each other and passion for the community. But I also knew that it wasn't forever. I knew that when I had kids, I wouldn't work weekends ever again. And I think that was my commitment. But I was building all this stuff on the side so I could just walk away one day and never have to look back. And that's really what happened. Was, you know, it had been 3, maybe 4 years ago now, I retired. Had a big retirement party, and after 18-year career of being there, I walked away. And then, you know, I had been able to do that with building, you know, assets and nest eggs and stuff all on the side. So at that point, when I walked away, I think I was running, I don't know, at least 6 or 7 businesses at that same time. So I was able to walk away, and that was a part of the strategy too. And it mitigated all the risk because I was learning on that side. So, you know, I learned to that point to get to where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's I mean, that takes some discipline, doesn't it? If you're running 6, 7 businesses on the side,
Sure.
and to commit to never work weekends. I think, I'm sure you've experienced this a lot with the businesses that you speak to. It's almost like we give all our time up to work.
Yeah.
And although our intention is, I'm never going to work past 5 o'clock. I'm never going to miss a bedtime. I'm never going to not be there for their dinner time. That slips, right? And I think I'd be interested to know what your experiences were for almost ring fencing that time. You know, okay, fair enough, you're not going to work a weekend, but how do you make sure you're back at an agreed time and stick to it during the week, during the Monday to Friday? Is it a case of you'll work as many hours as you need in then with the agreement of no weekend? Or, you know, how do you start to set boundaries and agreements between family life and home life and running 7, 8, 9 different brands? How does that work?
No, it's a great question. And I did work weekends for 18 years, just for the record. It wasn't like I just committed that I would quit working weekends for my kids' sake, but I did work 18 years of weekends and 12-hour days, retail hours, while running businesses on the side. So there was definitely a commitment to getting up early, staying up late, doing whatever it took to win. Taking lunches, days off working. I never really had a day off. I was always doing something, but I still found time to enjoy. I was a vacationer. I love to play. I work hard, play harder is definitely a slogan of ours. But to answer your question, I think it is 100% a dad commitment. And it is, I write about it in my book about how to bend time. There's a whole chapter about bending time in the book. And what I learned was like, I have to be, as a father, you need to be 100% present. There's too many people nowadays, like, here's the cell phone while you're at a restaurant or whatever. Hey kid, just watch some movies or whatever. And let this generation of like, let them raise themselves, just keep them calm and keep them quiet. I've always been the absolute opposite. Like, we need to be engaged. The minute that I'm at home, I'm at home. The minute I'm at work, I am committed to being at work. But I also know as an entrepreneur, and Rob, is like the work never ends. And you have to know that. Like, I'm literally 3 months behind on everything that I'm doing right now, and I will never get caught up. I'll be 4 or 5 or 6 months behind. So I know that working an extra hour or two every day is not going to change the world. I've already, I got to leave at 5 o'clock. If I have something going on at 5:30 with my kids, I will not stay here past that, because my family is the top priority of everything I have. And it needs to be. If you have the mentality of, well, sorry, honey, I'm not going to make the game because I just got a lot going on, you're never going to make the game, because you always have a lot going on. It's like having a kid. You don't just wake up one day and say, all right, timing's perfect. I'm financially ready and I'm ready to have a kid. Like, you don't. You just do it, and you do it because you committed to that. But bending time is something that I write about, and it's like, I get up at 4:30 in the morning. That's one of the reasons how I can do it. I get up at 4:30, so I have 2 to 2.5 hours, maybe even 3 hours sometimes, before anybody even moves in my house. That gives me time to get positive in my mind. That gives me time to work out. That gives me time to get some work done and to get my priorities for the day and know what I have to get done before that day ends. So, and then, those gaps, I even talk about in my book, when you're going to the restroom. Like, what are you doing there? Like, get those emails done. Get whatever you got to get done. Ending those times where, like, when you are on a weekend, if I'm going to check my emails, it's when we're driving in a car from one place to the other, and I'll get that done. And then when we get to the zoo, I'm at the zoo. Like, that's it. I'm committed to the family. You got to figure out when those little gaps of time are and use that to work. But don't let that affect your family. Stay up later when they're taking a nap. Do your work. Just do structure and bend as much time as you can. You will find gaps. You'll find 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there throughout the day that can equal an hour pretty easily of work time, that you can get stuff done. Or if you can get up 2-3 hours earlier than everybody else, I get more done before my kids even wake up than a lot of people get on an entire day. So it's like, bend that time.
Yeah, I think you made some great points. I'll just unpack some of what you were saying there as I was making some notes as you were talking. I think there's a lot to go on. I love the phrase "bending time," by the way. I think it's a great analogy. I think it's because it's amazing how you can use technology as your friend, and you don't have to. We don't have to work 9 to 5 anymore. You can get so much more done in those windows, and I often call it filling the gaps, or just this will fill the gap. I can do a lot in a short amount of time. You have to be focused and disciplined around it, I guess. And I think when you mentioned about the restaurants, hands up, I'm guilty of that.
Really?
It's one of my weaknesses, and it's something that I aim to try and improve. I know that we actively avoid taking 3 young kids. You've got 3 young kids, so you can connect
100%.
to restaurants because they'll tear the place up. So
right.
it is almost like, here's a phone, give us an hour's peace, and then we'll leave and say what a great family occasion it was. And in reality, it's not that, is it? It's 100%. You're keeping them quiet there, and it's over here. So it's something that we need to. Well, I personally need to develop and focus on as well.
I think of it like at home, like how many kids get a phone by the time they're 1 year old, and then that's their parents. The parents do their own thing, and the kids are always just playing on the phone or playing video games or something in the corner. And I personally think that's a fear of society in the future. If we don't let our kids be kids and meet people and throw rocks at each other and tackle each other and eat grass, like you still gotta be a kid. You know what I mean? You gotta get out there and get dirty and see the sun and shake hands and look each other in the eye and just make mistakes. It's a part of life. And I'm terrified of the the future of Facebook and this metaverse and all this stuff where people are going to be dating each other and falling in love and running stuff from a 3D mask and never meeting people. It is a scary thing. So I try to avoid it as much as I can.
It is just Ready Player One, the film. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's just that. Ready Player One, the film. No, it's basically that. They have goggles, they have characters, they have avatars. It's terrifying.
Oh, wow.
And you feel that Mark Zuckerberg is creating that. But yeah, it's true though. You know, our kids, my youngest is 3 1/4. He can use YouTube. They're so impatient. They're so entitled almost. The adverts come on. He wants to skip ads. It's like, lads, if you knew I had to run home from school to watch half an hour of kids television when I was young, it's right. Like, you don't realize what you have. It's madness. And I just wonder what that's going to look like as they grow up.
100%. You think about like if we like, I don't know if you like last year, TikTok had more downloads and questions than Google itself. If that doesn't tell you like where our 2021 had more traffic on TikTok than it did on Google.
Wow.
Like that is the scary thing, because if that's where we're getting our information from, that's just people entertaining and have fun. Like that's not necessarily reality all the time. And I'm not saying TikTok doesn't have good stuff, because there is some good stuff on there too. But it is a little like we've got to still be humans.
Yeah, we still have to have that engagement. I know the pandemic put a lot of blockers in that, and conversations like this wouldn't happen without technology.
100%.
But you cannot replace human interaction. It's still great to see the rest of someone, and not just this part of someone.
You know, like 30 people in this building right here, and we have a 9:05 meeting every morning, and it's a big circle screaming about successes, and it's just energy, and you can't replace that. Like you just can't do that somewhere else. And I love every morning just waking up and getting here. Yeah,
it's brilliant. And I think just on that morning point, there's a group of businesses that we work with where they're busy on the tools. There are a lot of tradespeople, and they're like, I haven't got time to do business development, so I just have to go and get busy, and I have to work longer and do all my invoicing and admin and this and that. And I'm not sending invoices out because I haven't got time. It's like, that's you getting paid. You have to find time to do this. And with a bit of discipline and I think a bit of habit forming, you mentioned the 4:30 in the morning, we encourage the 5 a.m. club. I tend to make it about 6 a.m. and I'm quite happy with that. But it's amazing if you get an hour and a half, 5 days a week. You know, that's an extra day a week. That's an extra working day a week. And the amount of stuff that you can get done before anyone's even awake is incredible in terms of planning, goal setting, 100%. Sorting your admin. People could just use their time a bit better, can't they?
100%. Yeah, just using that. And this, what it does for your psyche too. I'm such a believer in like getting that stuff done and getting positivity right when you start your day. You're setting yourself up for the entire day of success. You're making it a great day on your own. You choose to make it a great day. You're not like getting hit with a problem right when you wake up and going, shit, this is going to be a bad day. Like, no. You control that. And I've listened to 2 good books this morning. I've already ran on the treadmill for 45 minutes. I didn't hit snooze this morning. This is going to be a great day, no matter what happens. You know what I mean?
I like how you didn't hit snooze with a snooze mattress poster right behind you.
Don't hit snooze.
You also mentioned, Matt, in your conversation, whatever it takes to win, which is a great mantra to have. I guess that's on the assumption that you know what winning looks like. And I think there's a lot of business owners who react a lot just to get busy again. And how did you go about defining what success looked like in terms of, did you have a financial goal as well as a lifestyle goal, or was the goal lifestyle, and therefore the finances were just an enabler of that? How did that look in your early days?
And that's a great question. And actually, like the first chapter of my book is strategically called Finding Your Why, or the Power of Why. And that's like, nothing else matters if you don't know what your why is. And I think obviously, Rob, you and I have the same thing in like, it's our family is our why, but that's not everybody, and that's okay. Like, you need to know what is your goal and what are you going for and why are you doing what you do? Because without that, I mean, everything else is noise if you don't have that. So, you know, I do have financial goals. I have goals to change, you know, X amount of franchises. We want to sell 200 franchises by the end of this year. But we're awarding these franchises. We're very picky and we're getting the right momentum and stuff on that. But it comes down to like learning from everything you do and continue to win. And like you even mentioned, is like we've got to learn from our mistakes, but we like prime examples. It's 2022 right now. 2021, you know, the last 2 weeks of 2021, all I did was like, oh, how many mistakes did I make, or how many times did I learn this year? What did I learn from that I can prevent in 2022 to purely dominate whatever that was? So we've reinvented almost half of the way we did business, started fresh, pitched it out. You got to look yourself in the mirror and be like, you sucked. You sucked at this, this, and this, and this, but you got another chance. Like, let's move on and let's fix that stuff. So I think, you know, setting the goals is huge and looking at them daily. Like one thing that we talk about in the book too is like, if nothing else, just 3 large goals every day. Every day, just do 3 really big goals that you get up in the morning and you say, if I accomplish these 3 things today, it's going to be a successful day. And don't do nothing besides I mean, because as an entrepreneur, as you know, like we're just battled with, okay, I got to put out this fire. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I didn't expect that. And then 5 o'clock comes and you're like, what did I accomplish today? I'm not even sure if I got anything done today. So it's like, just get at least 3 major priorities done that are moving your needle forward. Because if you don't, you're going to be stuck in this rat race and you're never going to get out of it. And you're just going to age and age and age, and your kids are going to get older and older and older. And that's going to be the end of that. Yeah. So it's like making sure you're growing, whatever that is. If it's financial, but look at your goals as much as you possibly can, right? We made my wife do a bucket list for our family. I do a bucket list for myself. I do one for each business. And then all of our seniors of each part of the businesses, they write their own. Like, what's our goals? How are we going to get there? Here's the achievable. We set that all up. So lean on your teams for that too. There's plenty of people smarter than me in this building that help with that stuff.
Yeah, it's never be the smartest person in the room, right? I think I want to talk about teams and your collaborative network a little bit before we dive into sort of where you are now. But I mean, just on that goal setting and looking yourself in the mirror and the 3 big goals, the amount of times we hear people saying, I've been so busy, but I don't know what I've achieved. I've been so busy, but I've done nothing. My goodness. Yeah. And I think it's so, the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do, right? And I think if you're saying pick 3 things, you've got to take that responsibility to make sure you're actioning that. And like you said, you know, look back and almost critique yourself. And that immediately made me think about, if you're running 7, 8, 9 businesses and the family, and as an entrepreneur, you're always thinking of new ideas. I'm sure you've had several new ideas today. Who's in your support team outside of your family who keeps you in check in terms of professionally, collaboratively? Who's in that network that you can lean on to almost check in and get that feedback loop going? What's that look like?
Oh, it's a great question, and I'm such a believer in coaches. Like I have several business coaches in my life. I have book coaches to help with the books. I've owned a gym for 15 years and I still have a personal trainer kick my ass 2 or 3 times a week because I'm such a believer. I understand how to work out, but I need somebody to hold me accountable and I need somebody to bounce. And even having a coach, like I'm a firm believer is you need somebody to bounce. One of my coaches, I've had for 12 years, and he's a huge part of my success. And half the stuff that me and him come up with, I could have done on my own, but I need another perspective sometimes, or I just need to start bouncing ideas off of myself. And it's like, I'm a believer, if you're out there and you find somebody coaching, like I have so many insecurities. We all have insecurities. Well, the challenge is running as fast as you can towards those, you know, do shit that scares you. And that's how you grow. That's what you get out of your comfort, but find people that can help you with that. Google is a cheat code. Google will help you with anything that you want out there, only if you use it though. And if you don't have like the income to hire a coach for whatever else you're looking for, get on a group. Facebook's got groups. There's so many different groups of people that are free. Just find a Rob in your life that just holds each other accountable. I'll hold you accountable. You'll hold me accountable. This is free and we'll all win out of this. So there's ways to do it with the experts in the industry if you can afford that at some point. But if not, just get a coach, get people to bounce ideas off, get accountability partners, whatever it can be. It's a huge part of anybody's success. I mean, you'll never know everything. And if you're not growing, you're stale, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I just wrote down then as you were talking, accountability is key, isn't it? And you mentioned, I like Google is a cheat code, and it's true. Information is free. Information is abundantly available, but information without application or without anything happening to it is pointless, isn't it? It's irrelevant. And if you want to truly action something, I think if you can find that accountability group or a network or just someone who specializes in that area, You know, we break the dads in business methodology down into 4 areas. There's work life, there's family life, there's money life, and there's self. You know, 9 times out of 10, it's self that goes first, because we're pursuing work to get the money, and the family's gone because we're just looking after work. We have to find coaches or accountability partners in my opinion, in each of those areas. We're not expert in everything, and that's okay, as you say. But find someone who knows a bit more than you,
100%,
and have them pull you along.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, even when you hire people, like find people that understand this better than you. Like find somebody. It's another cheat code. Like if I'm starting a brand new business and I can find somebody that's been doing this for 20 years, well, I'm going to learn a lot from that guy versus me and a new guy trying to figure out this business together. Like it's another cheat code. Find people that are more experts in that industry. They're open-minded to kind of help grow and stuff. But we're doing that all the time. You know, you got to always be learning, but you always got to listen. You know, listening is probably the key to that. Is so many people don't want to hear from their teams or their employees because they think they know it all. But you got to step back and like, no, these guys probably know more than you if you just give them an opportunity. And we have that saying around here is like, if you teach me how to do my job better on day 1, I'll change everything we've done for the last 20 years. But you got to prove it. You know, Don't just come up with ideas, come up with actions.
Yeah, and I think it's a real opportunity for entrepreneurs, business owners to improve how they operate at work and at home. You know, if they just commit to listening a bit more. Sure. Because I'm sure we've all been guilty of the fact where it's my idea and it works and that's it. And I guess you have to have an element of that as a visionary, and it is your mission and purpose. But you have to be able to take the advice of others in certain spaces and situations, right?
100%.
Speaking of partnering with collaborative networks, for those that don't know, you were on a TV series recently. It aired a few months ago over here in the UK, Undercover Billionaire. Man, what was that like?
It was amazing. It was, you know, Wake Up was developed from that, but it is, it was an opportunity of a lifetime. I'm just blessed and honored to still be on this 10X ride, you know, partner with Grant Cardone, one of the biggest and best in the world. So, you know, the premise of the show is the American dream is still alive. Drop off somebody in a smaller town that's somewhat could be struggling, give them $100 in a vehicle, and they had to create $1 million business. And Grant Cardone, which if you don't know Grant, 10X, the guy is just a monster, and he's a pretty special human being. But he was dropped off into our community. He was pushed towards me by several people in this community, and then we started a business together, and the rest is history. So that's where me and Rob probably met.
Yeah, absolutely. It was because my wife, she loved it as well, and we were watching it. It's like, oh my goodness, that's and I'm familiar obviously with Grant's work, but never been that absorbed in seeing so much of him actively work in a business like that. And it was fascinating to see. And while the other 2 lady entrepreneurs that were on the series were also fantastic, it was your story that I connected with then, and I've pursued you since then to have this chat, because you know, it's you obviously support and love the city where you come from. Likewise, I live in Sheffield in the UK. I love it and I want it to be the best it can be. And it frustrates me as a city when it doesn't appear to be pushing itself forward as it should. And I got that a lot from what I saw of you talking about Pueblo. You're obviously very passionate about the city and the business within it, but the people within it. And I think it's really important, and that shone through. And I guess the question from the series would be, you know, you're always learning, you're always listening. What did you learn from a billionaire? What did you learn from Grant Cardone in that process?
Oh, that's such a great question. And it's, you know, I'm still learning from Grant every single day, it feels like. But if I take anything from the show, and I think that people can take away, is definitely like relationships. You know, I think number one, if you watch the show, you'll see that Grant, he built a lot of relationships in our community. He knew that contacts equal contracts. That's what he kept saying in there. But he did that with grace and truly to prove himself. Like he came into my life and said, hey, I want to add value. I don't want any money. I just want to add value. And, you know, as any entrepreneur out there, you teach me how to make money or save money and I'll share, you know, because it's a win-win for all of us. And I think that Grant came in saying, I want to teach you how to make more money and I just want a little piece of it. And I said, okay. And he had already built relationships all over this community. I saw on the show that when you guys saw it, was the first time I saw it was when it hit the live here. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know what he was really doing back there. But I think building the right network and the right relationships is such a key to entrepreneurs, to humans, to just enjoying life more. You got to have good people in your corner, but you always have that person to call on that trusts you when in need. And I think that was a key to my success too, is that I already had built these relationships for 39 years in this community. So it's easy for me to say, hey, I got something for you and I got a guy here. But those are relationships that took for that long time. So one, I would definitely say relationships. Two, I would say, you know, think big and move fast is definitely like, we learned a lot every single day, but you've got to be able to think as big as you can, but you got to move. Like moving is the biggest thing. You got to prove it. You got to go out there and run, but you got to be willing to learn. So we moved on a lot of things. Like if you saw, you didn't even see a tenth of it, the hundredth of it on the show, but we did a lot of running to try to prove what we could do. And then we learned every time we went out there, we did a pitch after we finally designed, that was our business. We learned and we kept running, but it was the hustle is what won that. There was zero chance of failure with us. We obviously butted heads a little bit in the show too, because his goal was different than my goal. I'm here to protect my community. I'm here to grow my community, tell this story and help level up our community. His goal was to make a lot of money in 90 days. I didn't know that. So we butted heads a lot that you guys didn't see. Not butted heads, but we disagreed because he's like, we need to go make money. And I'm like, we need to take care of customers, you know?
Yeah.
But I get it. Like I get where he's coming from now after I've seen the show and I've learned the whole side of the story. But during that time, I would say move fast as you possibly can. Make decisions, because I think as an entrepreneur, as a dad, you just got to make a decision and stick to it. Like it is too easy to him and Han go, maybe it should be this color. Maybe it should be this. I don't know. I don't know if this is the right thing. Yes, this is it. We're committing to it. Let's run as fast as we can and figure it out as we go. So the answer is yes. The question is how. So I would think that's a couple things I've definitely learned. And then enjoy the ride. Like me and Grant had so much fun. We went rappelling, we rode, four-wheelers around the circle at 𝐂𝐓𝐃𝐄𝐓. We did so many fun things, but we were just every day, we were having fun. And it's like, you got to enjoy the ride. You got to enjoy what you do to be successful at anything. Don't go down a hill that you don't enjoy what you do every day, but it pays the bills. What's the point?
Yeah, that was it. And I think it's fascinating to hear that insight from your relationship and conversations with him. And it's good that you felt comfortable to challenge someone who was in looking like they're just here to make money, and you were stuck into your values. And I think that's an important catch out of that. We were butting heads because I wanted to stick to what I believe in, and I think there's a lot of merit in that. And I think.
And me and him we talked last week on Clubhouse, and it was so funny because I was like, Grant, without me, you would have probably done $20 million if I didn't hold you back in a business. But without me, you wouldn't have done anything. So we needed each other to make this all work. But I definitely pulled back because I'm like, no. And his priority, he talks about it now, is like, I have so much respect and love for Matt for what he did. But yes, we could have gone so much farther than $5.5 million in the 42 days, because he was pulling me saying, we need to fix this customers. We need to win for these guys first before we go make any money. And if we would have just ran faster and harder, who knows what would have changed. But it was a win for both of us, but I didn't know his side. He didn't know my side at the time. But
I think that's a nod, if anything, to the power of collaboration. One of my business partners, he always says, you push me and I pull you. And I think it is that's the journey, isn't it? And all of my projects are collaborative. Because I think business can be a lonely place. And if you're building that network, that team is driving that forward. If you're not busy, you've got time. And that was one of the sort of lessons that I took from watching the series with you, was if Grant came and knew no one, no money, he's not busy, he's got time. And you've got time to focus on getting things moving. And I think that's, for me, was an important takeaway. You've either got money, you've got time, which is
And you got, and I think the other point of that I try to really talk about even in my book is like that 20% rule. Like as a dad or an entrepreneur, you've got to give yourself some leniency. You can't work 8 to 5 in the office. You've got to give yourself for shit like this to happen, because you never know when the opportunity of a lifetime is going to knock on your door or hit your office. You got to be prepared for that. And too many people are like, don't have time, don't have time, don't have time. Well, you have to have time to dream, and you have to have time to think of like scalability and have some fun, but leave room for shit to smack you in the face, an opportunity of a lifetime. Leave time for that. You know?
Yeah.
Don't,
So if
don't
you're just running like this, you're not going to see anything. You've got to have a little bit of
100%. And you know, I was building a mattress store for, you know, just knock out the shelf. We were adding on to our gym, you know, I was selling this. I had so much going on. So I had every excuse in the book to say, I don't have time for this, whatever this camera thing is. But I also, I'm not that guy. And I'm like, something special is happening. I'm going to lean into this, and I'm going to put a pause on this. But think of if I didn't lean into that, where different my life would be right now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm conscious of time. So there's just a couple more bits I wanted to try and touch on, because I know you've got you're publishing another book, which I wouldn't mind having a little chat about before we wrap up. But I think in terms of, I mean, there's been so many takeaways from this series. I hope people watch it back and take more from it. I mean, you're obviously a very inspirational, driven and motivated individual. I think people can learn a lot from that and apply a lot from that in their business. But I guess if you had some tips, some takeaways for perhaps those busy dads who are struggling a bit with the increasing guilt, anxiety, overwhelm, what would you say to a dad who says, you know what, it's too much for me, it's overwhelming, I can't see a way out, what can I do? Work's too busy, there's no profits, I'm competing wholly on price, I'm never at home to see the family. What would you say to businesses like that? Because it's quite common, I think.
And it's a great question. I appreciate that. I definitely would say you need to look yourself in the mirror like I did at 2022, and is there a light at the end of the tunnel? And if there's not, you need to move on. You know, like you need to protect your family. And even when we say like protect your family, Rob, we talk about like leaving at 5 o'clock, but you still got to be present. You can't leave at 5 o'clock, get home and be stressed out, or none of this makes any sense. You know, you've got to be present for your kids when you're there. You've got to grow. Like you've got to understand your number one priority is to be there for your family, and what you're doing, everything that you're doing, all the hard travels, all the stuff that I do, it's for the family, for the next level and for the growth of that family. But yes, shit's going to get hard. You've got to learn that, you know, positivity is the thing that I read in there too, is like positivity is a muscle. I believe the more you work on it, the more that you're going to strengthen that. I believe that decision-making is a muscle. The more you do it, the better you're going to get out of it. And I feel like I'm such a positive person, but it's because I've worked on it for 20 years. I don't see negative anymore. You could throw every problem at me in the world today, and I'd be like, I got it. We'll figure it out. It's a situation. It's not a problem. But I think that's because I've spent years and years developing, just like a muscle that you work out in a gym. You've got to work on your muscle and your brain. And you don't, you know, yes, have I lost money? Shit, yes, I've lost money. I've failed every single of my 12 businesses I've opened. I've failed at every single one of them at some point. But I was gritty enough to go through that and fight that fight and keep learning from my mistakes and not giving up. Like I tell everybody, like the goal should never change. The goal is here. But how you get to that goal is going to change every single day. And you've got to learn and pivot. You got to be willing to go, okay, that didn't work. But the goal is still going to get there. And I'm not giving up until I get 1,000 snooze franchises. I'm not going to give up until I get whatever that number is or whatever your goal is. You've got to push at that. But failure or learning is what I call it. Not necessarily failing is a part of the journey. Like be prepared for that stuff. Like we all are going to fall on our face, but the grit to get through that and learn from yourself. But if you're in a dead end, if you're circling and you're not making profit and you're running, that is so stressful. You've either got to figure out how to solve that problem or you need to know when to fold them too. You know, there's got to be a point that if there's no light at the end of the tunnel, I've had to reinvent Wake Up this year. Like we always are trying to reinvent, okay, who are we? What does our customers think of us? If you ask your customers long enough, they're going to tell you what your business is because, you know, you're listening to them. So you need to know what it is, but ultimately pivot. But you've got to turn a corner. If you're losing money, how do you just make $100? And then how do you make $200? And how do you make $800? And how do you make $1,000? Like small steps, but making sure you're always making forward progress. If you're going backwards, you need to move on.
Yeah. And I always like that lesson. I think it was Amazon that called them successful failures. Learn from it. Don't just take it as a failure. What lessons can be learned and move forward. You know, I know many businesses who've invested in things, technology solutions that just didn't work, and they take it. All right, it's painful at the time, but they take it as a 10 grand lesson. I learned from that.
And you
it's
have
how you react, right?
Again, 11 businesses. The only way I was successful at them is because I learned and developed structure. There was every single one of them. At some point, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to close this down." But I never closed a business down. I'm very proud of that. They're all still in this town. They're all still thriving. But it's because I was dumb enough to keep going. Figured out, you know what I mean? And I just was too determined to say, no, I'm not going to do this. But I had to throw all the cards in several different times, and but learn. You got to adapt. And I think all businesses can be successful with the right determination, the right people. I don't care what the business is; it can be successful.
Yeah, positivity is a muscle. I think that's a great one. Yeah, work on it like you would the gym. Just finally, Matt, you'll need to shoot off in a few minutes, I guess. We have a responsibility, I guess, to pass legacy onto our kids, raise the kids with the same values that we bring up. You said your dad wasn't around when you were young. My dad passed away when I was 20 years old, so half my life almost now has been without my dad. And my God, I wish he was around sometimes to help point me in the right way. I want to make sure that my kids are set up in a way that if I'm not around, they know what to do, because I'm like, here, what can we do to look after kids? You mentioned before we come on the stream, you're writing a book for kids, is that right, as well, to help them understand what it is and value led. And tell me about that. It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that answers your question too. Like I did write a book called Make It a Great Day, and it's getting ready to get published. It'll be on Amazon here soon. But I wrote it with my kids. They're Parker, Paisley, and Preston are the koala bears. My mom's favorite thing was a koala bear. I lost her also when I was 25. She was 50 years old, but she was my hero. Like, she was more than just a mom. But anyway, so the premise of the book is 3 different parts. The beginning of the book is like, we have the choice to make it a great day. And I ask my kids every single morning, is today going to be a great day? And they say, yes, because we're going to make it a great day, Dad. And that's the positivity that I'm instilling in them every single day, that they know they could fall off a slide and break their elbow and it's still going to be a good day because they make it a good day. They don't have a choice of the shit hitting them. It's going to happen, but it's going to be a good day. So all 3 of the kids wake up and they just like, it's going to be a great day because we make it. And my kids do that every day. The second premise of the book is, one kid is trying to learn how to ride a bike and he keeps falling. And then the other one's trying to learn a cartwheel, keeps falling. The other one's trying to do somersaults, keeps falling. Can't figure it out. But it's like, we're koalas, we don't give up. And it's really instilling in the kids, like my kids say, we're Smiths, we don't give up, Dad. So they brainwash me. They're like, Dad, you don't give up. I'm like, you're right. It comes back to me. But that's what I'm trying to instill them at a young age, is like, don't give up. Just be positive. Like, every day you make it a great day. And then the end of the chapter, something I learned as a dad early on, I learned it from several different people, but it's called the 3-2-1 rule. And it's like, every night before I go to bed, I say, what was the 3 best things that happened in your day? What was the 2 challenges that happened in your day? And then what is the 1 thing that you look forward to for tomorrow? And as parents, like, I think this is the best communication tool that you will ever have with your kids, because just by saying, what was the 3 best things that happened in your day? Rob, you and I might go, oh, when I took him to the park and we threw this football, he's going to say that's the best part. But then he's going to go, no, Dad, when you pulled out that chessboard and you taught me this, or whatever it may be, like, or when he's like, Dad, when you whatever it may, I'm just trying to give
it might be like you didn't check your phone while watching television, yeah, the things they notice, right?
It gives you an insight of what your kid's thinking. Because what we think as parents, that we're doing such a great job. I taught him a game today. I taught him how to play chess. I did this today. They might think, those all sucked. I was forced into that. This is my 3 things that I really like today. And again, if you're not listening, but the minute that they tell you what their best things are, you're like, okay, I'm going to do more of that, And then the challenges, when you think of what your 2 challenges are, they might go, hey, at school, this kid was bullying me. So then you have to talk about bullying. Or they might go, hey, mom said this or dad said this or whatever it may be. You're like, oh, I didn't even know that you guys were paying attention to that. So just listening to your children. And then 1 is like, give them something exciting about tomorrow. What do you look forward to? Oh, I have a field trip tomorrow. Oh, that's so awesome. I didn't even know that. Whatever it may be, but give them something to look forward to for the next day. Again, bringing it back to positivity. Like, what do you look forward to? So every single night, if you just do that, and in the end of the book, it's set up where it's just blank. It tells you how to communicate, but then it's just blank, and it's 3, 2, 1. 3 best things, 2 challenges, and 1 thing you look forward to for tomorrow. So if you just ask your kids that every single night, I'm a firm believer, your communication will be better, their communication will be better, and it's a win. So
wow, it's a great approach. When's the book out?
It's already actually on Amazon. I'm just making a few changes to it. So
version 2 is coming out.
By the time this launches, you'll be out there.
Brilliant. Listen, Matt, we've probably gone over by a few minutes. I think I heard your phone ringing there. I think we'll it's been an absolute pleasure chatting. I mean, so many takeaways, too many to mention here. I think it's been a great listening experience for me, and it just fantastic to hear how someone can run so many projects and businesses and still be present and so happy with their family. I think it's an incredibly inspirational hour that we've had. So thank you very much for finding time in your schedule. How can people connect, see more about you, learn more about you? Where are you at? Where do you hang out?
I'm on all platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, mattsmith.pueblo, Facebook, Matt Smith Pueblo, I believe. Serial Dadpreneur.com. I have a lot of stuff going on there. You can buy that on Amazon. You can look at the Make It a Great Day. All that stuff will be on serialdadpreneur.com. I'm on all social media platforms. So yeah, definitely feel free. Anything I can ever do for you, men. You keep doing this. You keep painting the message of good dads and communication with your kids, and just, making family first a priority in our world. Because, if I could leave nothing else on this call, is like, everything else is just noise. When you're 80 years old and you have all the money in the world, that's not going to matter. What's going to matter is the relationships that you build with your own family, what your kids think of you, and if you made your kids good humans. We have that opportunity. We have that goal in life to make them good humans, and whatever that means to you is different. But that's our job. Our job is to make good humans and make them a priority. Whatever, I'll lose every business I have. I'll live on the streets before I jeopardize what I have at home.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic message to wrap it up at. Matt, thank you so much. We'll grab a quick picture offline, and I'll share that on social. But yeah, Matt Smith from Pueblo, Colorado. Thank you very much for spending time with us, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon, sir.
You keep killing it. Keep changing the world. And all you
one step at a time, Matt. One step at a time. Cheers, Matt.